So welcome back to the next seminar in our World Class Basics series. Somebody once said that next to life itself, our greatest gift is the right to choose. It's easy to forget sometimes that psychology is a fairly recent science. One of the earliest psychologists, William James, once said that the greatest discovery of my generation is that man can alter his life simply by altering his attitude of mind. So that's the context in which I want to discuss this next topic of change your mindset, change your business. And what I'm going to share with you is something that I learned a number of years ago, and I still believe to this day it's the most powerful thing that I've learned. And it starts like this. You see, we can't always dictate what happens to us, but we can dictate our attitude to what happens to us. And if we're below the line, the words that describe our attitude are blame, excuses, and denial. Now, I hear this all the time. Ian, you don't understand. It's my parents. Ian, you don't understand. It's the government. Ian, you don't understand. It's the local council. Ian, you don't understand. It's the competition. Excuses. Ian, you don't understand, it's the tax. Or the real kicker is denial, which often sounds something like this. No, we're not going bust. We just haven't made profit for the last 3 years. Now, when I talk about this, I usually talk about Emily, my stepdaughter. And when she was a little girl, she came home from school one day and she said to her mum, "Mum, a terrible thing happened at school today. Mrs. Smith, the maths teacher, gave us a maths test, but she didn't tell us we were going to have a maths test, so I'd done no work for it. And as a result of that," she said, "I got really, really bad marks." And when she saw the look on Jane's face, she turned around and she said, "But Mum, don't worry about it, because when I go to the big school, I'm going to do arts, not sciences, so I don't need maths anyway." And you can probably see how in one paragraph she managed to get all three. It wasn't her fault. The teacher hadn't told her that there was going to be a maths test, besides which it doesn't matter anyway. Now, how often do we do that? So let me ask you a question. Do you know people that live some of their lives, maybe a large part of their lives, below the line? And here's another question. And you might want to think about this. How often are you, how often are we, how often am I living my life below the line? How different would it be if we were above the line? Because if we were above the line, the words that apply in that case would be ownership, accountability, and responsibility. Now, before I write responsibility in full, I don't mean blame, I mean the ability to choose our response. So just notice the difference. "Mum, terrible thing happened at school today. Mrs. Smith, the maths teacher, gave us a maths test, but she didn't tell us we were going to have a maths test, and I got really, really bad marks. But Mum, don't worry, I'm going to make sure it never happens again. I'm going to make sure I'm always ready for it, because I understand that no matter what I do, basic maths is important. Besides which, I'm better than that." Notice the difference in response. Notice the difference in attitude. You see, when we are below the line, what we're doing is choosing the attitude of victim. When we're above the line, we're choosing the attitude of either victor or owner. Now, at this time of the year, the geese don't get any choice in which direction they fly. But every minute of every day, every one of us gets a choice in our attitude, and we can choose to either be above the line or below the line. Now, when we're below the line, we think it's everybody else's fault. It's the government, it's the competition, it's the council, it's the parents, it's the weather. And whenever we're below the line, what we're doing is we're letting ourselves off the hook. We're saying, it's not my fault, there's nothing I can do about it. But the fact of the matter is, whether you like it or not, for every one of us, every minute of every day, we get to choose. The fact is, it's your choice, it's my choice, it's our choice, whether we're going to live our lives above the line or below the line. And why is it important? Well, quite simply, if we're living our lives below the line, what we're saying is it's not down to us. We can't do anything about it. But if we're living our lives above the line, actually we know that we get to choose. So below the line, that's saying I can't do that. Above the line, that's saying I haven't learned how to do that yet. When we're below the line, that means that our worst self, our lower self is showing up. When we're above the line, that means that our higher self is showing up. Now, our higher self won't always show up, but if we can get our higher self to show up more often, we're likely to make a better mark in life. So you get to choose. Now, when I do this with teams, it's really quite interesting because I'll do it slightly differently, and I'll say to teams, do you know people that live some of their lives, a lot of their life, below the line? And people are nodding, and often they're pointing at the people next door to them. This is, if you operate in a team or with a team, or you manage or lead people, this is really handy because it gives you shorthand to explain, and you only need to use it once. Then you've got it in your language. And I believe if you're working with people and you haven't got this in your language, then you really are missing a trick. As I say, this is one of the most powerful things I ever learned. And one of the things I still don't understand is how it took me so long to learn this. So, change your mindset, change your business. How much of your time and your team's time is spent below the line when it could be above the line? This is problem-centered thinking. This is solutions-focused. Now, to notice, listen to the words that people are using. And I'll give you one final example. My PA once, we used to do an exercise where people wrote to me, but I promised I'd keep it anonymous. So Helen used to type all the responses out and jumble them up so that person A didn't always have the first response to every question because it would be too easy to tell who'd written what. And she sat typing away, taking their verbatims and putting them on a spreadsheet. And she turned around and she said, "These people from such and such a company, their writing's dreadful." And I just looked up and said, "So Helen, how would you put that in an above the line way?" And she looked at me and she didn't understand at first. And then she realised, I'm struggling to read their writing. So it's not their fault. It's down to Helen. So, make a decision. I ask all clients to make this decision. And if they choose to be of a victim mentality, I can't help them and nobody else can. So, are you going to choose a victim mentality or are you going to choose an owner mentality? Remember, it's your choice.